What is up, everybody? This is Brian, the Toyota guy, over here at Fred Anderson Toyota in Asheville, North Carolina. And today I'm just going to give you a quick tour of a car we just got in that I'm happy to sell. And it's in my opinion, one of the best cars that is available to buy, but you'll probably never have a chance to actually take home. And that is, of course, a 2023 Toyota Prius Prime. So let's go take a look at it and we'll talk about why I like these things so much. All right, so again, this is a 2023 Prius Prime. This one is also in the SE trim, which I thought would be kind of unique to talk about. Well, it's probably the only one we're going to sell here this year, so it's kind of luck of the draw. But I think on all the YouTube reviews, for the most part, the press cars have all been XLEs, which is the higher trim model that has the 19-inch wheels. This is, again, the SE model that has, I think there's 17s. I'd have to get up there and actually check them, but it's got the more economy tires. And what that means is you get the maximum efficiency when it comes to the hybrid system, the fuel economy, the plug-in range. And as a reminder, these are rated for up to 44 miles. Now, obviously that's in a best case scenario, but still, to get 40 miles of plug-in range and then be able to switch over to hybrid is pretty incredible. And I believe statistics prove that for most people, 40 miles will actually do just fine. Now, I will say one of the downsides of these tires, and again, I've not had a chance to drive an XLE. I guess I could try to drive a regular Prius with the 19s, is I just went and put a full tank of gas in this car and just did our normal test drive route so I could actually get a feel for how this car is, since it's so revolutionary for Toyota, since it's an all new design and everything. But these tires are not great for any kind of handling or power delivery, because this car is actually pretty quick now. It's got I think a little over 200 horsepower now, and it's actually extremely punchy. If you've had questions about hybrids or Priuses not being able to merge into traffic or climb up mountain roads or anything, you are not going to have that problem with this car. The only problem that you will have is that with these tires, I guess we can come in and check them out now. So it's the Extensis All Season. Let's see, what are these tires? Yeah, they are Toyos. 300 tread wear, which is actually really interesting. So it is a very soft tire. I was not expecting that. I figured this would be a higher tread wear, so they're not going to last that long, but I guess that's typical for new tires. You can see they are 195 60s, and they are 17s, so I was correct there. But these are extremely noisy. If you do anything with getting on the power, you're going to start hearing tire noise. If you go into a corner at a medium speed, you're going to hear tire noise. So just something to expect. I was a little disappointed with that, and I wasn't even trying to push the car or anything. I was just kind of taking around a windy back road that we use for test drives. So that's my only negative thing to say about that. Otherwise, I thought the handling was actually pretty good. But while we're standing outside, I think what I just love about these Priuses, they have so much more character now. They have so much better design qualities. Part of it is you can see they're definitely stealing some cues from the Tesla engineers when it comes to having that extremely raked windshield. It's interesting being inside it, because that windshield is such a huge piece of glass. It is all the way out in front of you. So you actually see these A-pillars stretching way out in front of you. So it's kind of a bizarre driving experience. I'll show you when we get inside, but I just love the styling. I love the way the headlights are integrated. I love the LED with the ambient strip that goes around. I've seen these driving around, at least in a regular Prius format, and it's a pretty menacing looking car. It's definitely not, your grandma's Prius that you might think of. You can just see how smooth that front end is and just how futuristic it looks. I mean, especially from this angle, it looks like a lot of prototype cars you would see from magazines back in the 90s or 2000s. But extremely cool profile. All the Priuses have these features, of course, but if you look at just the design cues here with the door, I'm sure it has something to do with drag coefficients and everything there, but it definitely looks cool. But you can see there's actually this really interesting cutout here on the door sill between the front and rear tires, and it just gives it a lot more kind of like muscular shape, a much more, I don't know, maybe a feminine shape, if you will, where it's just kind of got these hips that kind of sink in and then kick back out. And again, I'm sure it has something to do with airflow, because you can see the way it kind of twists off the bottom there. But most cars just have a flat door sill here, and that's all you get. But this is actually a really intentional move. Now, again, this one's in the Guardian gray color, and it is an SE. So you can see we've got, some stuff like the painted black mirrors, and it's got the little fancier cloth interior. But we'll take a look at these taillights as well. I'm sure you've seen these in pictures, but this is probably one of my other favorite things, is this, again, this car from every angle. Just looks fantastic. Now, looking at the cargo space in the rear, this model on the SE does not have the powered tailgate, but it does have pretty good storage. Now, Primes in the past have really been plagued by a lack of storage, just because typically the way the hybrid battery was, there was no space inside. It's been a minute since I've looked inside a regular Prius, so it'd be hard to compare, but from what I do remember, I think this load floor is exactly the same height as the regular Prius. So I don't think you have the penalty on the Primes of this model like you did the older ones where you had to lose your storage space. Now, for those that are curious, if you look up underneath of here, there is no spare tire. You do have your air pump there, and then of course your front plate bracket, and then this to be expected is the charging cable. Kind of like the Corollas and some of the others, there is kind of this weird pocket thing that's on the sides. So I mean, it could be a little bit deeper on a regular Prius, because I know the Corollas kind of sink down about 9 inches or so, and this is only maybe 3 or 4 if we're lucky. But I'm guessing this right here is probably something to do with the 12-volt battery, would be my assumption at least. I do think, and this is pretty common with the newer Toyotas now, but they've got the cargo cover built in, but it's a cargo cover that you can see has a crease, so it can actually fold up and fit in here nice and easy. So that's always nice to see, because not everybody's a big fan of those, and it's just nice to be able to stick it in the car. We're going to jump in the back seat first. Now, of course, the new Priuses have gone for that kind of look of the shaved door handles, where they've got it built up on the top here. But if I go ahead and climb in, and I'm 6'3", I can get in here no problem. All right, so I will say, others have talked about it in reviews, headroom in the back is not great. That's the only disadvantage of this kind of slope roof design. As you can see, again, I'm 6'3", and if I sit all the way back and sit up, I'm definitely hitting my head. Like, that's the only thing that I can really find is terrible about these new Priuses. I do think the foot room is great. It's pretty good. I can actually stretch out my legs a little bit depending on where the seat is. Leg room is manageable. It's definitely a little bit better room than what you'd have in something like a Corolla. Maybe not as big as the Camry. And then you can see we do have a fold down armrest with cup holders here. But if I just recline even just a little bit, the headroom's doable. So, I mean, for somebody who's looking at this for like an Uber car or daily driver for kids, I think it'll work fine. You can definitely get adults in here. I would probably say, minus the headroom, I'd rather sit in the back seat of this Prius than I would a Tacoma, because Tacoma seats at least don't have any leg room. There's no place to put your feet, and you're sitting shoulder to shoulder with the guy beside you. So, kind of tight back there. But now let's go ahead and check out the front. All right. So let's get that driver's point of view from in here, and I'll kind of show you around. So this has been a controversial update to kind of the Prius lineup and a lot of their other cars. But in older Priuses, you would have your second display. The radio would be further down, and you'd have like a second screen that was almost in the middle of the car, where you'd have speed and miles to empty and all that kind of stuff. Well, with the Priuses now, they have gotten rid of that and moved to this kind of like pseudo heads-up display. So you can see as we look through the steering wheel, which we're looking down low to do so, it is right up here, straight out in front of you by the windshield. Now, one thing that is kind of cool about this new look is there's definitely some newer software going on this screen than what you would typically have with a lot of the other Toyotas. The color palette's definitely different. There's a lot more information on this car. These Toyotas now have, maybe not full autonomous driving, but they do have more features when it comes to the stop and go. I think they call it traffic assist, which is the adaptive cruise that can actually work through stop and go traffic as well. And so part of what they had to do is, if we look down here by the steering wheel, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up well, but there is this bar right here above the steering wheel that actually has some form of sensors and things like that. So it's actually pretty smart at being able to tell if you're paying attention to the road. When I was driving, if I had my hand over the steering wheel here, like a lot of people like to drive, or if you like to one-hand drive there, it's kind of interesting. If you hit the camera right, you can actually see the IR sensors in there. That was kind of neat. But anywho, if you like to, drive with one hand on the steering wheel, that's obviously going to block your line of sight. So when I was pulling around through the parking lot, I was getting an error message on the screen, or a warning message that it could not see my face. So something to kind of think about if you're a one-handed driver there. The other thing that I thought was interesting is, because of the advanced safety features and some of the self-driving technology in this car has a cross-traffic alert but facing forward. So when I was pulling out of the gas station and was taking a right turn, because I was pulling out onto a busy road, even if I was just inching forward towards the road, it was actually telling me on the screen that there was oncoming traffic. So something I've not seen on a Toyota before, was a lot more technology going on that screen. I haven't played, again, this is not my car. It's one we're gonna be selling here tomorrow morning. So I don't wanna go messing with it, of course, but you can change some of the different displays and things like that on there. You can see, kind of like all Toyotas have had, you can see your media and different things on there. You can scroll around and see different bits. So it reminds me a lot of the Corolla, the GR Corolla, where they've got the all digital display. But now the other thing that's been talked about a lot is the placement. Oh, there's those IR cameras. Now you can actually see them. Can't see them in real life, but you can see them on the video camera, which is pretty cool. Anywho, I've watched like Throttle House and Savage Geese and some of the other videos on these, and they were complaining about the angle of this and the fact that they could not get it to work with the steering wheel. Now, if I'm shooting the camera from like chest level, like right here, then yeah, you kind of have to lower it down lower to look through the steering wheel. Or if I put it a little higher, it's right there at the steering wheel. But if I'm honest with you, if I put it like right here where my face would be, this is again the wide angle view on the camera lens, but for me, it's totally fine. And obviously I'm a tall guy, so that might be part of it, but I've got the seat all the way down. I've got it at a normal reclining point, and I could honestly move the steering wheel lower if I wanted to, but if I'm sitting here the way I would be looking, that is not a problem at all. If anything, it puts it right in the perfect line of sight. So I would think if you're somebody that is a little bit shorter, you have a ton of room where you can move the steering wheel around, you know, higher and lower, as well as a telescoping feature there as well. So at least for me, it's not a problem. But if you've, you know, heard about it or read about it or something, it's definitely worth checking out, even if you can just sit in a regular Prius. Now, if we look over here at the center display, this is Toyota's system, their connected drive that they have for pretty much all their Toyotas now. Well, they're phasing it in for other ones. This is exactly what you get in a brand new RAV4 and in a brand new Corolla. And it works okay. I don't love it, honestly. I do like that they've integrated the wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which I think is nice. I was never that bothered by just plugging it in myself, but I know a lot of people like that technology. What I do hate, and I've said this about every single system Toyota has with this in it, is they used to have a lot more physical buttons here, so you could kind of switch, you know, sources, or if you want to hit the menu or something like that. And now everything is done completely on the screen. Now, it's a good screen. It works really well. It's actually really responsive. The colors are great. It's a bright sunny day and you can see it shines through just great. But the problem is I don't have my phone connected, of course, but if you're in Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and you've got that on the screen, there's a lot more work that it takes to get out of that system than just hitting the home button like you used to have. So I do feel like that's a missed opportunity. And then with this car as well, this is a big feature for all of these new Toyotas, is this Drive Connect, which is the basically cloud-based navigation system that Toyota offers now. And I've used it a little bit and it does work well, but the problem is this is subscription based. Now, some cars have it standard where you can have it on a free trial for, I think it's like 2 or 3 months or something like that, or maybe it's longer, which is where I've been able to kind of use it and play around with it. And it does work well, and it does have a voice command feature where you can use an assistant that's built into the car to actually set things up and whatnot. But the problem for me is that if you just don't want to pay, and I think it's like $15 a month, which is not, you know, a little amount of money every single month. That's more than I think a Netflix subscription now. If you don't pay the money, because most people are just going to use their phone anyway, you always have this dead button here, and it's basically the default on the screen. So you just have this dead navigation button that's there that'll never do anything if you never pay for the service. So I'm not a huge fan of Toyota. If you know, by any means they end up watching this video, I doubt they're going to listen to me or do anything, but I wish they would just, I don't know, integrate that a little bit better, or just, I have no clue how to explain it, but I just don't like it. Everything else about the screen I do like. You can see if you have the XSC model or the nicer models, there is room for a much bigger screen. This is the standard screen. Looking at the AC controls, everything here is actually laid out perfectly the way it should be. You have physical dials to adjust anything you might want to do. Of course, auto climate control. Because this is the SE model, we do not have heated seats, but we do have a heated steering wheel, which is just interesting how Toyota packages things. You can see you've got a power inverter in the back. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up. That's the switch for the power inverter, fuel door, the windshield defrost, and of course the auto high beams. Looking at the steering wheel, this is new for Toyota. Now they've always had these buttons on here, but this is a different layout. But you can see you've got all your typical buttons here, as well as volume and Bluetooth, or that would trigger the voice command, and then your adaptive cruise, as well as your lane centering and everything there. You can change modes here. So I guess that's where they've said they can get rid of some of the buttons here, because they have them on the steering wheel. But anywho, I've said my piece about that. Now, of course, if you've watched the Throttle House video, which is probably one of my favorite videos on these, they do talk about all the weird little hashtags that are all over this car. I guess you could call them Easter eggs, but they have hashtag hidden compartment here, because you can pull this thing out. They also have this hashtag. Now in this one it says side tray, because this car doesn't have the wireless charger. Otherwise it would say hashtag wireless charger. There's a little hashtag back here on the door that says like hashtag safety first or something weird like that. So they're all over the place. I think there's one in here. I don't know. They're all over this car. I think there's like 6 or 7 of them, but you can find them for sure. But looking at the SE model, this is the first one that I've been able to sit in. Of course, it comes standard with cloth seats, and I do like the color palette in here, personally at least. I like the black and gray interior with the way that the red is integrated. Looks really good. You can see there's red stitching here on the headrests, as well as down here on the base of the seat as well. And then you have this faint red accent that actually goes through the dashboard. It looks almost more burgundy than it would be like a super bright red, which I'm happy with, because a lot of people don't love super bright colors in their face. But it's a nice modern interior. I'm actually really a fan of the aesthetics of this car and just kind of how the layout is and how it works. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but when I was talking about earlier, you can just see how raked this windshield is and how far out. Again, I'm a big dude, and there's no way I'm able to touch even close to the bottom of that steering wheel without leaning way up. But these A-pillars are so long, so you definitely have a bit of this. I'll drive around just to kind of show you. You have a bit of this like kind of spaceship feel to it, where you just got such a large windshield in front of you. Now the visibility out the windows is actually great. The hood tapers off nicely, so you don't feel like you've got this huge nose hanging off the front end or anything there. But overall it works really well. Now, interestingly enough, this does have a full tank of gas right now, and it has not had the EV system charged. It's come right off the truck. But you can see with a full tank of gas, just driving in hybrid only mode, this car will do 505 miles, which is just absolutely insane. So really impressive car. So I hope I've done a good enough job actually kind of giving you a first-hand perspective of these cars. Now, yes, I'm a Toyota sales guy and I work at a Toyota dealership. However, I am a car nerd. I have multiple cars at home, to include a BMW M3 and an 82 Toyota Celica, as well as a 2000 Toyota Celica, a Previa. I've got a 4Runner project. I mean, I've got so many different things in the house, mostly Toyotas, of course. And I am a Toyota guy. I am a car guy. And I have never in my life had any interest in buying a Prius until they came out with this model. Now, this one MSRP is for right around $35,000. A lot of dealers obviously have huge markup on that, which can make that a $40,000 car or more. But if you can buy this for close to MSRP, I think these cars are great, especially when the average car, you know, new car is, you know, $40,000 to $45,000 anyway. To get one for less than that, that has 52 or 54 miles per gallon when you're doing just hybrid mode, and then a 40-mile of electric range on top of that, you know, a 500-mile range tank, and it's probably only like 10 gallons or something crazy. Just a fantastic car, especially if you want something as a daily driver. You know, maybe you just want to have a commuter car. Obviously, if you're wanting to get into Ubering or doing Lyft or something like that, such a great car. And I do love the looks. I love the handling, minus the tires. Again, the tires are terrible. I can't emphasize that enough. I love the interior layout, minus my gripes of the technology on the screen and the lack of buttons there. It does work really well. It's really well integrated. So overall, a fantastic car. Now, the problem is Toyota just does not have a commitment to make these cars. We were not originally allocated this car to my dealership. To my knowledge, we have not yet had in Asheville, North Carolina, a Prius Prime allocated to our dealership. We've had other Priuses, of course, but this Prius Prime, we had to do some backrooms dealings to get traded from another dealer, and thankfully we had a GR Corolla that they were able to sell in their market, so we were able to take one oddball kind of rare car as a circuit edition as well. So we took one almost impossible to get car and traded it for another impossible to get car. But that's the biggest downside with these cars is Toyota has such a great marketing campaign with these, and they have such a great product, and these cars review so well, but working at least in the Southeast District, and it could be different in other places, but when I look into the system, out of about 177 dealers, typically every single month there is only going to be about 15 Prius Primes that are rolling around in any given month. So again, 177 dealers in the Southeast at least, and 15 of these getting built. That is ridiculous. And to put in perspective, I think there's typically like 40,000 cars or something like that are traveling around with Tacomas and Corollas and RAV4s and everything else, of course, they make. But 15 is basically the sole reason why anybody who's having a hard time buying these and is finding huge markup, it's the reason why it's happening. I don't like it. I don't love it as a consumer. I wouldn't want to pay $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in markup, so I totally get that. But the reality is, these cars are unfortunately a pay-to-play car. If you read into Toyota's stance on these, they don't really have that much of an agenda towards full EV. They're on record talking about the fact that for every Prime they make, like a RAV4 Prime or Prius Prime, they can make like 10 hybrids, and they already have a hard time making a regular hybrid. So there's definitely a problem with production, definitely a problem with, I guess, I don't know, the commitment to these, because these have always been, even before COVID, these have been pretty much impossible to buy. You're never going to just find one sitting on the lot, and if it does, it's going to have a huge markup. So that's why I wanted to make kind of a thorough video, kind of giving you my personal thoughts on this. There's a lot of good resources out there as well between Toyota's website and other YouTubers that can kind of help you make a decision. Now, if you can get your hands on one of these, I would do it. I mean, I don't really have anything. There's nothing about this car that would keep me from buying it. If anything, if I just got rid of all my cars right now and wanted to get one that I was going to drive every day, hands down, it would be this. Now, I probably wouldn't have to have a Prime. I could possibly save a little bit of money and go with like a regular hybrid Prius. But if you can get a Prime, it just does everything well. If you've got the capabilities, of course, to plug up. So I know it's kind of a longer video than what I would normally do, but the reality is I will probably never sit in a Prius Prime again, a brand new one at least, for God knows how long. And I've been here 3 years. And this is the first new Prius Prime that I've ever sat in. So if you've made it with me this long in the video, really thank you. Really appreciate the support. Hope this was useful. If you guys have any other content you'd love to see about any new Toyotas that are coming out that I can do from the dealership's perspective or here on the lot, just let me know. But as always, thanks so much and have a great day.